Hello, everyone, and welcome back to A Theater Near You. I'm your host, Chris Randazzo, and joining me today is definitely not Roy, Paul Giroux.
You better know my name before you share my bed, lady.
And unnecessary insanity subplot, Sean Doyle.
I am crazy in every movie, including Stephen King movies.
This month's letter was Q, and we went with my pick, Quigley Down Under. What kind of cowboy is Tom Selelck? Let's find out. But first, gentlemen, how the hell are you?
Fun fact about Quigley Down Under, that is also what Tom Selleck calls his ding-dong.
I don't want to know how you know that.
You go first, Sean. Tell us how you're doing, Sean.
Oh, I'm living the dream. I'm walking around. Life is happening, and I'm not dead, so big wins across the board. I don't have anything important to report that wise. I have a couple movie concepts. Not concepts, but things to say about movies.
As do I. I've been to the movie theater twice since we last spoke.
Da movies? I didn't go to da movies, like capital D, lowercase a, capital M movies, da movies. So I'm not nearly doing as well as Chris, I guess.
Well, then we're probably not talking about one of the things that I know Chris and I both saw at da movies.
We could talk about it. Look, here's my biggest complaint about that whole scenario. Having not even seen the movie, and it's a running complaint about all movies, I guess. I know the freaking movie. They give you everything in the trailer, and I try to avoid trailers as much as I can. But then, I'm also a little cheap, so my streaming services still have commercials on them. Because actually, I like the commercials. That's when I get up and go get a beer. That's when I get up and take a leak. I'm fine with commercials. But they've pounded so many different commercials for that into me. I've seen enough scenes, and I know the comic books, and I'm going to be shocked if something surprising happens, other than in an end credit sequence. I'm going to be shocked if I don't see every turn of this movie coming.
Well, I do think that the trailers have kept one piece of it pretty secretive, but as Paul said, I feel the same way. I think they kept the wrong piece of it secretive, but, only to a certain extent. So obviously we're talking about Captain America, from Brave New World, and Red Hulk was all over the trailers and stuff like that. So the fact that Thaddeus Ross turns into Red Hulk is not a surprise. And that would have been a really cool surprise for the movie. But I think they thought that was their best marketing tool.
Yep.
It's how do we not market this with Harrison Ford turning into a Hulk, right? But that would have been such a cool ass surprise. If they had just had the balls to make put this movie out there like it was going to be this just political thriller kind of looking thing.
Which is what the second Captain America sort of was.
Yeah.
And was a phenomenal movie.
Oh my God. It was fantastic. But how much more word of mouth would this movie have gotten after the fact if they had kept Red Hulk a secret? Because then everybody would be talking about it after it came out, and then more people would want to go see it on a more long-term thing. So I do think that would have been a smarter play. But if you... No, go ahead.
To springboard off what you're saying and what we were texting about, and also, look, I'll say to anybody that's listening that, super duper tuned in to hear all about Quigley Down Under, and now we're talking about, Captain America, Brave New World, and you don't want to have it spoiled, skip ahead exactly 7.5 minutes, and you'll probably be fine. But Chris and I were texting about the Red Hulk thing. And, I said, this was the thing that they should have spoiled in the in the trailers. And the Red Hulk thing is the thing they should have kept under wraps. All right, that's the thing that they thought was their best marketing. But it was also the end of the movie. It was you were following a whole nother plot, and then they're slowly revealing that, and then that was their big finale. So if they had essentially by that being the crux of the marketing, they completely spoiled their finale, the one card they had to play.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And don't get me wrong, I still really enjoyed it. It was a fun movie. It wasn't a great movie, but it wasn't a bad movie. It was a fun movie.
Look, here's my thing. I think it was an okay movie. Like, I think it was fine. I think it was perfectly enjoyable. I think it was okay. I think the thing that's a bummer is it could have been a great movie. Like,
I agree.
With a couple of different choices, it could have been a really great movie, and I felt like it wasn't.
Yeah, and you know, like, this movie's been through a lot. Like, they've done a lot of reshoots and a lot of moving things around. There's a lot of fingers in this particular pie if you look into its backstory. Like, there was an interview with Harrison Ford talking about it, and they're like, what do you think of the messaging in our current political climate of, like, you know, all the things that you say in this movie, and how does it reflect what's going on in the world? And Harrison Ford was like, we shot this over 3 years ago. The world's pretty different now. Like, it doesn't reflect current climate at all because it's 3 years ago.
Right.
No, it's so. Sean, do you know who the other villain in the movie is?
I don't.
Okay, then
well, wait, maybe I do.
Do you? I don't know.
I mean, here's the thing: if you
it
followed
was
any
announced
of
at Comic-Con and stuff.
It was
not
on all the
trailers.
Comic-Con panels. So
it's not in the trailers or anything, but it is something that they had announced. Like, do you know who the other villain is?
I think I do.
They take a swing.
No, I don't know. You say it. Just go ahead.
You sure?
Yeah. Go ahead.
All right. It's
I think
Leader.
I already know. It's who?
Leader.
Oh, yeah. I already know that.
Okay, yeah. So he's not in the trailer. He's kind of like there in the trailers, but like they got the guy from the Incredible Hulk
from the
movie.
first one, right? They brought him back.
Him back.
I knew that they brought him back. You're saying he's the villain. I didn't know how big a role he was having in this, but the commercials. And again, I'm not super focused on it. They make it clear that he's like pulling some strings in there, like he's. And I didn't know if he was going to show up at the end or if you're going to know the whole time he's pulling the strings. But...
yeah, like, you know, somebody's pulling the strings the whole time. I think maybe halfway through the movie, a little bit earlier, maybe you see him. Like, the whole thing is that during the movie, you see Ross taking these pills, like medication, and that was Leader's plan. He didn't know he was turning Ross didn't know he was turning him into Red Hulk, but that's what the pills did. They made him turn into Red Hulk. It was all part of his master plan or whatever.
And it was all pretty well thought out. Like, you know, there was a plausible reason why this character was introduced in a movie from like 2008, and then, you know, we haven't seen them until now. Like, they thought it all out. They covered their bases, but there was a lot of stuff that was real sloppy in the execution.
Yeah, the action sequences were really fun. I think Anthony Mackie's a very charismatic dude. Harrison Ford is a good time.
I kind of like Harrison Ford in that role better than what's his face, William Hurt.
I hate to say it, but I just like Harrison Ford better than William Hurt.
Harrison Ford's great in every role.
Yeah, Harrison Ford is fantastic. It does make me sad that William Hurt has been in like all these bit parts over the years as Ross, and when it finally comes time for there to be a movie where he gets to be a central character, he's no longer around for it, which is that's super sad, because I didn't dislike William Hurt in that role.
No, and I thought he did a good job in that role.
Yeah, but like, how do you beat Harrison Ford as the president?
But like, I think for, you know, over a decade they were like over on the fence about what to do, right? Like, I think it was like, oh, we got this Incredible Hulk movie, and in this Incredible Hulk movie, like, we have a different actor as the Hulk, you know, like, this is a thing that we could feature as part of our continuity, and this is a thing we could just sort of like forget about, you know. And then they're like, well, we need this Ross character, and he's going to be, you know, various things in the MCU political scheme in different movies, and we're going to incorporate that, you know. But like I think this was the first thing that really called back to this movie that I think that they were on the fence about if they even cared about acknowledging. You know,
they were already stuck with Abomination. I say stuck with. Tim Roth's treasure anyway, but
yeah, they put him in She-Hulk, and even before then, he was
also in She-Hulk, and he showed up at the end of a movie.
Yeah, but
the beginning of a movie.
But all that stuff was in the last 3 or 4 years. All that stuff was in the planning in the lead up to this phase where they said they're going to do this, you know?
Right.
Well, in the in phase 1, they had that short film, The Consultant, that was specifically there to make sense of Tony Stark going into that bar. So that was and that was actually a really clever way of handling that. And obviously Ross has been around, and they mention what was it, in Avengers, Hulk says the last time he was in Harlem, he destroyed it. Like, they mentioned the question of whether or not Incredible Hulk has been canon. It's not really been in question ever. Like, they directly reference it.
And then Ross showed up
several times. Yeah, and then they had Ross show up in Civil War. He showed up in Black Widow. He showed up in something else. But like,
I'm not saying they didn't. I'm not saying that they didn't. That they were trying to hide it. I'm just saying that like it hasn't been a prominently featured part of the trajectory until now. Like all through phase 1, 2, and 3, it was kind of like and that happened.
Yeah. I think there's been lack of confidence that Hulk can carry a movie.
Right.
Oh, I think it's that Universal still has the rights to individual Hulk movies. Yeah, like they have the Hulk, but they can't make an individual Hulk movie without doing a similar thing with Spider-Man. Where like, that's why World War Hulk happened in a Thor movie. That's why all this Hulk stuff's happening in a Captain America movie, because Universal still has a piece of that original Hulk movie. So if they're going to do any solo Hulk movie, they've got to split some piece of that with Universal.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so, well, why spend the money on that? We can just do whatever else we're going to do. Hulk doesn't have the same cash as Spider-Man does.
Sure.
And that's unfortunate, but like, so they can do She-Hulk, they can do Red Hulk, but like, if it's just a specific Hulk movie, Universal has to be like some sort of part of that, I think, which is obnoxious, but it's how we got here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's how we all feel about Marvel. Oh, the freaking commercials. I'm going to jump back to that for a second. When they came out with Civil War, I didn't know when I went to see it. Went to see it. I saw it on opening day. I didn't know Giant Man was going to happen. And it was a great surprise.
That was a great surprise.
I do a pretty good job of avoiding trailers. Again, I'm not internet-y, but I still feel like I know this whole Captain America movie. But
it doesn't have a lot of surprises in it. So.
Right. Yeah. So that was a great surprise. And then as soon as I got home, like the next day, the commercials had Giant Man.
Yeah.
And that pissed me off a little bit because my dad... his favorite Marvel character is Giant Man, Ant-Man, Giant Man, whatever, Hank Pym. So I was like, that would have been a nice surprise for him, but I'm sure he's seen it now. And that, like, just come on, movie commercial people, just leave something in the bag for us. Like, I know you want us to go see your movie, and at some point, look, the movie's been out a month, sure.
Yeah, the movie's been out a couple of weeks, you can start throwing things out there, but that's how I think they should have handled Red Hulk. Like, keep that under wraps and all the promotional material until it's been out for at least a week or two, and then you can start showing off the big crazy stuff. Like Spider-Man showing up in Civil War 2. Like, that was kind of a surprise. The Giant Man thing. So we've been doing the Marvel movies with the kids for my pick for movie night, and we're at Civil War now. And the kids really enjoyed Ant-Man, so I'm pretty sure back when Disney Plus first existed, we showed them the scene with Giant Man, just because we're looking, look, it's all these things on Disney Plus, and we can look at them, and they hadn't seen any of the Marvel movies. I'm pretty sure they've forgotten about that scene entirely. I know Ellie was watching that Spider-Man cartoon, the
new one,
the newish one with where it was Peter Parker, Miles Morales, and Gwen Stacy, the three of them. It was like a little kids one.
Right, yeah.
So she knows a bunch of Marvel stuff from that. So like she knew a bunch of Thor mythology about Mjolnir and Odin and stuff from that show. She knows, like, when they mentioned in Age of Ultron, they mentioned Wakanda. She was like, that's where Black Panther's from. So she doesn't know Black Panther's going to be in this movie. They don't know about the whole Giant Man thing. They don't know Spider-Man's in this movie either. So, like, I'm really excited.
That's a couple big hits. Yeah,
that's some big hits. That's going to be really fun to watch with them. I think John's going to think Giant, because when we first showed it off, John thought that Giant Man thing was the coolest fucking thing he'd ever seen. He was like, so like, yeah, I think that's going to be a really fun watch this week. Them watching the Marvel
he likes
stuff,
big stuff smashing things.
Yeah,
he does. Yeah. He's a big fan of that. And the Marvel movies have been going really well. Like, what was it? Was it just Ant-Man before Civil War, or was it something else? I can't remember what my silly ass watch order is. But they've all gone over pretty well, and Civil War is going to be a hoot. And this is where I throw in a couple other like oddballs with my watch order here, just because I feel like it makes no sense for some things to be where they are. So
Black Widow.
Yeah, so like we just did Ant-Man, then we're going to do Civil War, then we're going to do Black Panther, Spider-Man: Homecoming, Black Widow, and then Doctor Strange. Black Widow being in Phase 4 makes no fucking sense.
Nope.
It just doesn't.
It was just a lie. It was just a lie. They tacked that last scene on to try to justify putting it where they did.
And you throw this last scene in this early, and it's just like, whoa, why does she have a gravestone? Like, it just adds fun questions. Like, oh, is she going to die? I don't know. Wait to find out. And then as we finally get to where she dies, then you get to see that.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get to Guardians 2 with them as well, because they enjoyed the first Guardians quite a bit.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite one.
Yeah, it's pretty high up there for me too. I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's definitely one that gets me the hardest. Like the end of that movie, I well up. I cry the man tears.
Guardians movies are unreasonably good. Just took a shit property and hit 3 consecutive home runs
really
out of the
did
park.
A very good job.
Just like, not only are they going to be great fun movies with lots of fun characters that people can relate to and laugh about with amazing soundtracks, but every single one of them, we're going to make you cry. Like, not oh, that was a little sad. No, we're going to find a way to just climb inside your chest and stab your heart a couple times just to make sure that we're all, focused here.
The second one in particular has a lot of classic rock that Ellie knows. The two of us like dance around the house too. So like that whole "Come a Little Bit Closer" Yondu with the arrow scene, she's gonna lose her mind. And that's one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie because I adore that song, and I love it when you've got a kick-ass action sequence set to a classic rock song. Those always go over really well for me.
How old does a song have to be before it's classical?
Well, classical? Oh, well, God, I don't know.
Classic?
Right? Like, at what is it, 100 years? Like, at some point, when does classic rock become classical music?
Oh, I see.
I don't know that it does because it's such a different genre. Maybe it'll become classical rock instead of classic rock, but I don't think you can really call it classical music because classical music has been defined by, like, your Mozart and stuff to that.
1,000 years from now.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
So
Pink Floyd is just another Mozart, right? I mean,
so in terms of classic rock and like designations of rock, right? Like a lot of times my students, like, I feel like they're like gaslighting me, and I kind of like go off the handle about this because like they have, they have this term of dad rock. They'll be like, that's dad rock. And like, I now like go off on a tangent about this because I hate this term, right? Because like I will hear them refer to like Soundgarden as dad rock, and then I'll hear them refer to like Queen as dad rock. And I'm like, these are two drastically different things from like different eras of rock, And then I'm like, you guys have to stop using this term, right? Because like really what you're doing is music shaming, right? Like you're saying it's not the hip thing that I want to listen to, so I need to like qualify it in this like way that makes it not cool, right? But you're talking about rock, and like no matter what happens, like it could be decades from now and we could all be living in space, and like people will be like sitting on weird stools playing the theremin and like other like new instruments that like people made up or whatever. It doesn't matter what the music is. Rock and roll will still be the coolest fucking music that ever existed. Like, it doesn't matter when it is. If it's like guitar, bass, and drums, and somebody like wailing into a microphone, it will be the coolest thing, and you can't say that it's not cool. So they're like, dad rock. And I'm like, you guys got to stop this. And then they like gaslight me. They're like, no, I'm not saying it's not cool. It's like, I'm saying it lovingly. Like my dad put this on when we were in the car. And I'm like, stop it. You're not convincing me.
I was going to say, next time they say it, just be like, I'm sorry you had lame dads. But, because my dad was fucking cool. My dad's super cool, and his music was great. I mean, it was mostly just the Beatles, but it was, and Harry Nilsson. That fucking music's great. Fuck you and your dad rock.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't necessarily think they're saying that it's not, like, that they're acknowledging that it's not cool in some way. I think they're, like, being, like, it's not my thing. And I'm like, all right, it is cool, and it should be everybody's thing, and shut up.
So Sean, what are your other movie-related things you had to talk about before we got sidetracked by Marvel?
I just so while I'm not quite done my Marvel rewatch, I started a Tremors rewatch, going through that, and I just got through number 4. And I love these movies. I don't understand how anyone could not love these movies. If you're at all a fan of bad sci-fi action movies, it's just great. I don't know if you guys have taken the time, but now that I'm done number 4, the next thing I think is the TV series, and then 5, 6, and 7. I saw 6 and 7 not too long ago, but I'll rewatch them anyway, because what the hell, I'm going in order.
I've watched them all. I watched them all. There's 7 of them?
I think that's the end of it. Is there 8?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's 7, because I feel like 1 through 3 are kind of a set, and then, and that's the thing that, like, sort of establishes the life cycle of the graboid, right? Because, like, in each subsequent movie, there's like a different iteration of their life cycle. Like, then they turn into this thing, and then they turn into this thing, and then they lay eggs, and it starts over again.
And then 4 and the TV show jump back in time.
Yeah, 4 is the one that was in the Old West, right?
Right.
Yeah, and then 5, 6, and 7 are this format where Michael Gross is, like, paired with, a younger, like, sidekick character, and they're off hunting. They're off, like, it's almost like they're like the graboid police or something. Like, they go to different places where they spring up and
right. It's the Arctic, the jungle, and something else. I can't remember what the other one is.
I think the desert, right? One's like in the desert, or like in a different country in the desert or something. I
don't remember now. Now I'm excited, because I think it's number 5 that I can't think of. I think 6 is the Arctic and 7's the one in the jungle.
I didn't like the 4th one, the Old West one.
It was a weird move to change Michael Gross's character so much. Like, I don't know. You've kind of established that character, and I know it's supposed to be his great grandfather, whatever the hell it is. However many greats, but I don't know. I still enjoyed it. It was They were like, where are we going next? I don't know. Let's do this. I like that haphazard approach to my B science fiction movies, not to my blockbusters in the theater, part of a franchise. There I want actual good work done. But, like, knowing that you're a B sci-fi, action, probably straight to video, maybe right to Sci-Fi Channel movie, knowing what you are and just giving me what I'm expecting is okay. Like, I don't know. I don't need you to hide the Red Hulk from me. I'm not going to get nitpicky here. I know what I'm signing up for when I hit play on Tremors 4, right? And they gave it to me. I was like, thanks. Perfect.
And look, like, whether you want to say they're a lot of fun or whether you want to, like, roll your eyes at them, right? Like, I think Michael Gross is amazing. Like, and like, you can see when you watch him that he loves playing this character, you know, that like for years he was like cast as like America's dad, and he was sort of like in this role, and like now he gets to be this like weird old crotchety libertarian you know, monster hunter. Like I feel like you watch him have so much fun, and it like adds to the enjoyment of those movies.
And I don't know why this thought hit me. Like somebody brought up something, and I can't remember what. Was at a bar, somebody said something about somebody who was dead or whatever, and I yelled at them about, don't tell me. I'm sure I've gone on this rant before. Just don't tell me when famous people die, and I won't know. You know, if you don't tell me Gene Wilder's dead, then I just assume he's alive somewhere, because I don't know the man, right? Like, I wouldn't notice his death. But I'm going to make an exception for Michael Gross, because I really feel like when he dies, we all have to dress up as his character from Tremors and, like, go out to a bar and really salute, you know, the life's work of
Agreed.
This man.
The Burt Gummer fan club.
Mm-hmm.
We're starting it right now.
Right now. This is it. It just began.
Yeah.
That was my movie news.
Yeah, I'll go next because I can make it quick. We already talked about Captain America, and the only other movie I saw in the movie theater was the that Bob Dylan movie, which I thought was good. Like I don't have a lot to say about it. I like Shadow May. I thought he made a pretty good Bob Dylan. I thought that was a cool movie.
They filmed part of it down here.
Oh really?
Down in Cape May.
Oh, that was the Newport Folk Festival, Cape May.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
It was that's the kind of movie I will end up watching. That those kind of movies I only go to the theater for, like, I'll go to see Captain America. I go for like big special effects stuff anymore, but like that kind of movie, like I think I'd rather watch it at home. I'll just wait until it pops up on whatever Hulu or Netflix or whatever, and I'll watch it.
We went out and saw it for my birthday, so it was cool.
And really tearing it up.
Yeah, and then this is the other funny movie thing I'll say. It's just like a weird, I guess it's kind of a weird anecdote, right? So, you know, we look for things to watch as a family. You know, we don't quite have the like regular family movie night that Chris has, but like I think sometimes it's like when we all decide we're gonna watch a movie, like then it's like, all right, well, what are we gonna show Nate that's gonna, you know, I'm always like stretching my memory banks to go like, all right, this is the thing, you know. And sometimes I think that I've found a winner, you know, like sometimes I'm like, this is a fun movie, or like, you know, he'll crack up at this, and then we play it and like he's just stone faced, and I'm like, oh, like I severely misjudged that. What did I miss, you know? But for my birthday, he was like, he goes, you pick the movie, Dad. You pick your favorite movie. And I'm like, oh, that's difficult. Like, what is my favorite movie? You know, I was like, that's a riddle, you know? And then, like, I'm kind of scrolling through, and I'm like, well, I'm going to pick a thing that I think you're going to love. Like, that's going to be my goal.
You went with Young Einstein.
I did not go with Young Einstein. I went with...
I bet you Nate would love it.
Well, I think when we watched it for the podcast, he watched it with me. And
oh, did he?
Yeah. And, you know, I don't know. He liked it as much as... I think
one could like this movie.
One could like this movie, yeah. No, I showed him UHF.
Nice.
Yeah, and he freaking loved it. He laughed so hard at Stanley Spadowski's Clubhouse. Like, every single thing that was Stanley Spadowski's Clubhouse. You get the drink from the fire hose, you know, like he laughed so hard at that stuff. And then the other thing he kept laughing at was the Wheel of Fish guy. The, you know, what's in the box? You so stupid. So UHF was a big hit. He loved UHF. And then last night, you know, it was the same thing. We're like, what's he going to key into, you know? And Shari made the pick, and she goes, what about 10 Things I Hate About You? And I was like, all right, let's give it a try. So we watched 10 Things I Hate About You. Great movie. I haven't seen it in a long time, but like, I forgot how great that movie is and how much it holds up. Like all the Shakespeare stuff that's kind of like 90s 90s teen speak like is like really fun and like still kind of like settles the movie in this kind of timeless fashion, right? But like he was totally into that. He was totally into all the characters. He loved it. And when it was over, I was like, pretty cool, right? Like now you agree the 90s is awesome, right? Don't you think the 90s was like the best time to be alive? And he goes, no, I hate the 90s. And I was like, what? And he's like, I hate the 90s because I wasn't there to live through it, and it was so cool. And he turns around and goes up the stairs, and that was it. I never saw him for the rest of the night. It's like, okay, I guess that's a rousing recommendation of this movie.
Well, if you're gonna hate the 90s, do it because you weren't there.
Yeah.
This is weird, man.
He wishes he could be of another time.
Oh, and we showed Maggie Peter Pan, which was a little more racist than I remembered.
Oh, yeah. I remember when we did that when the kids were young.
Yeah.
Does Disney do a disclaimer where they're like, the depictions of Native Americans do not reflect our blah, blah, blah?
I don't know, because I don't read.
Yes, I'm pretty sure there is a disclaimer at the beginning on if you watch it on Disney Plus.
Gotcha.
Just like, oh, little, not terrible, but it was like a little bit,
little over the line.
A little over the line.
Let's see. So the other movie that I went to go see in the theater was Dogman, because my kids are huge fans of Dogman, so they were really excited about seeing this movie, and it was pretty cute. It was a good time. It was well acted. Had Ricky Gervais as one of my favorite characters, which I'm not sure how I felt about. I couldn't really place his voice either. It was weird. It's been so long since I've actually heard Ricky Gervais say anything. I couldn't place him, but he was Flippy the Fish, and I love Flippy the Fish. But it went farther into the books than I expected it to. Like it was an origin story, so it's what you do with your first movie. But it kind of went up to like the first 4 or 5 books on a couple of aspects of the plot, which I didn't think it really needed to. Honest to goodness, it kind of reminded me of the Daredevil movie, where like no Ben Affleck one, where there's like, you didn't need to do all this. You know, you could have saved some of this for later and fleshed it out into his own thing. And that's kind of what they did with this Dogman movie. They also added some really unnecessarily sad shit. Like the Dogman books are really nice because I'm a big fan of them because they don't talk down to kids that much. Like they're full of like, you know, silly poop jokes and goofy wordplay, but they also don't shy away from using, you know, big vocabulary words.
Wait,
and
now,
they also don't.
I just had to look it up because I didn't even know what Dogman was, so that's what I was just looking up on my phone, and it kind of looks familiar, but it's just a kids series of books.
It's a kids series of books. It's
so wait. So correct me if I'm wrong, because we read these a while ago, and now my kid is not of the age where he like reads this stuff anymore. But like, Dogman is the comic book that the characters in Captain Underpants draw. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
So,
a little bit meta.
It's kind of become its own thing to an extent, to the extent now that they don't really acknowledge that as much anymore. Mm-hmm. Because now there's a spin-off from the Dogman books. Cat Kid Comic Club is already its own spin-off. So it's like now it just kind of exists in its own world. Which is fine. It's so in this movie, they added this. What was I saying? Right? They don't really talk down to kids, and the books do occasionally have emotional beats to them, which is nice. But they threw in some weird, like really sad backstory stuff in here that I didn't think was strictly necessary. Like the whole goofy ass plot of Dogman is that there was a cop and his pet dog, and then they got into a car accident, and the doctors were like, we can't, the dog's body is useless and the cop's head is gonna die, so we'll just sew the dog's head onto the cop's body and make Dogman. It's completely insane, but that's kind of the point. It's just a silly thing. but they added to the beginning of this movie that the cop lived with the dog, but also had a girlfriend. And then after he got the surgery, he went home as Dogman, and he found out that his girlfriend ditched him, like just completely left him, and got a new boyfriend and got a new dog. And there was no resolution to this. It was just like, and this is a bunch of sad shit that happened that made Dogman really sad to the end. Like, they acknowledged it a couple more times throughout the movie where he'd like walk up the stairs and there'd be a picture of his old family and he'd get all sad. And then that was it. So
part of me wants to say bitch, and part of me wants to be like, no, it's a reasonable reaction.
It's
right?
a reasonable reaction, but at the same time, like, you're not even going to visit him in the hospital and be like, I'm sorry, I can't deal with this.
I don't even
wish
know
you
who it
well.
is anymore. You're in a car accident with your dog who's asleep on the couch next to me. You show back up at this house with that dog's head on your body, right? And the doctor, with a note from a doctor, sorry, head died, dog's body died. We did the best we could. This is what you got. And Karen walks out on you. I think I got to give her a pass.
I'm not holding it against her.
Right,
no.
right. Yeah,
But,
we
like,
just got to be like, yeah, no.
She's probably going to say something at some point, be like, good dog, but I'm out. You know, I don't know. Just, it seemed, for the tone of the movie, like an unnecessary mountain of sadness that just didn't need to be there.
That might be the perfect segue into Quigley Down Under.
You're not wrong. So yes, I'll move on to that, but I will say the Dogman movie was very good. However, there's a character that's supposed to be secretly in love with Nurse Lady, but Nurse Lady wasn't in the movie, so they made Chief secretly in love with Sarah Hadoff, and I did not approve of that. That's all.
This all sounds like the rantings of a crazy person, and let's move on to Quigley Down Under.
It is quite literally what they are. Anyway, Quigley Down Under was released for some reason in theaters on October 19th, 1990, and was distributed by Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. It was written by John Hill and directed by Simon Windsor. Hill's other works include episodes of Quantum Leap and L.A. Law, Griffin and Phoenix, and Little Nikita. Windsor's other works include such classics as Crocodile Dundee in Los Angeles, Lightning Jack, and Free Willy. The movie stars Tom Selleck, Laura San Giacomo, and Alan Rickman. It tells the story of a cowboy sniper who meets a crazy lady, befriends some natives, and kills Alan Rickman.
The sentence you just said might be the most 90s thing I've ever heard anybody say. like that, like, you could have said that, or like, I think the only thing that might rival it was like, are you gonna be home tonight? I'm gonna call you on the telephone and we can watch Twin Peaks together. Like that, like those two sentences would be tied for most 1990 thing you could say.
So allow me to defend myself a little bit here. I'm going to defend me and Greg's honor because, I picked this movie. Greg was there when I chose it. We picked it for a very specific reason. Now, did either of you guys happen to watch the movie trailer for this?
Nope.
No.
Okay. So I'm looking through movies that start with the letter Q, and I come across Quigley Down Under, a cowboy movie with Tom Selleck and Alan Rickman. Okay, what does this look like? So I look up the trailer. Greg is here when I do this. We watch the trailer, and it paints the picture of a funny adventure with Tom Selleck and Laura San Giacomo kind of having some fun, eating the bugs and giving each other silly looks and goofy romance. And it looks like a goofy, high adventure, early 90s romp. That's what the trailer painted this movie as.
That's the movie they made.
Are you apologizing for this? Because I loved this movie.
Oh my God. I hated this movie so much.
I love this so much.
This was so aggressively bland.
I'm going to go in the middle of the two of you there. I didn't love or hate it. It clearly had a little bit of, I guess it's schizophrenia. Like, the people who made the movie tried to make the movie Chris just described, a fun, happy early 90s romp.
Oh, you're talking about the movie. I thought you were describing Laura San Giacomo, but I'm sorry, go on.
The person who wrote the movie did not want to make that movie. The person who wrote the movie tried to make something very different. And the two groups, the writers and the people who made the movie, just decided to ignore the other party and just, they were like, nope, we're going to do it our way, despite the input of the other. And you just ended up with this very, eclectic's not the right word, but it was the vibe just changed from scene to scene.
It did, because there were occasionally these bits where Tom Selleck and Laura San, I think it's pronounced Giacomo.
Well, Laura, good morning. It's nice to be able to sit here and talk with you. And right off the bat, I want you to say your name and pronounce it correctly for us.
Laura San Giacomo.
She played that nut job in The Stand.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And she was in
that
Just
TV
Shoot
show,
Me.
Just Shoot Me. That's all I got.
So this movie started out, it was supposed to be made a decade prior as a Great Escape.
Great Escape.
Who's the guy? Why can't I think of his
name?
Steve McQueen? Steve McQueen. This was supposed to be a Steve McQueen movie.
Oh.
It's just a straight-up Western with Steve McQueen, gun nut. This guy has this super cool sniper rifle. Look how cool this gun is. Cowboys, go. And it was inspired by the genocide of all the Aborigines people in Australia. Like, that was the whole point of this thing. But then Steve McQueen died. And so the movie kind of got put on ice. They tried to get, God, my brain is mush. You'll have to pry the gun from my cold dead hands.
Charlton Heston.
Charlton Heston. They tried to get Charlton Heston, I think.
I could do this all night. Say more things about actors, and I'll say who they are.
They tried to get Clint Eastwood, and eventually they they landed on Tom Selleck, and that's when the movie got made.
Really softened it up a bit there, huh? Not to attack Tom Selleck. I like Tom Selleck, but you went from some pretty...
Yeah,
you went from hard.
You went from super hard to
to sitcom ready.
Yeah, not 10-ply, but we're getting there. So, it's like by the time this movie got made, westerns weren't like as big a thing anymore. So, when it came out, it was just completely critically panned. It never made a fraction of its money back.
Well, wait, I have to ask another question about why it was critically panned, and you. Like, I feel like you're the one who's always looking stuff up while we're doing this. How close was this movie made to Dances with Wolves?
It released at almost the exact same time.
Yeah.
So it got completely overshadowed by Dances with Wolves.
It was doomed from the start.
Oh, absolutely. It was doomed from the start because of that. But then, like, its critical reception in addition to that was like, anybody who was looking at this thinking like, well, maybe I'll watch this one too, was turned off because critics hated this movie.
Well, the idea of comparing this movie to Dances with Wolves is it's absolutely absurd to me. Like, because again, whoever was making this movie, let's say the director, I don't know who makes a movie, I'm going to say director, they weren't trying...
We do a movie podcast.
They weren't trying to make a Dances with Wolves. They were trying to make rom-com might be pushing it, but they were trying to make a silly, fun adventure film.
That's the thing. They actually weren't. They failed. They failed into that. They were trying to make a Western. And then...
Were they?
They were trying to make a Western. That's the movie they were attempting to make. And then I feel like there must have been some sort of production thing, like there was something and something at some point along the way where there was some sort of chemistry between Tom Selleck and Laura San. Well, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce her last name anymore. And they had like a couple of moments like that throughout the course of the movie, but there was very few of those moments, and the marketing department saw those and latched onto those and like the high energy score and were like, this is how we're going to sell this movie. But it was always supposed to be a Western. So the tone was generally, through most of the movie, super bland, lots of establishing shots of traveling from point A to point B, and really fetishizing that super cool gun that he had.
Dude,
for good reason.
You guys
super cool gun.
You guys are really talking down about this, and I thought that was some of the best parts of the movie. Like I didn't watch the trailer, so like I can't say what, like, how this fell short of a thing that was in my mind. But like, knowing nothing about it, like I thought that this held up really well as a formulaic Western, like all the, you know, hallmarks of the Western, you know, the score, the like beautiful like landscape, the you know, the sort of the traits that define the main character, the villain, like I could go on and on. I like that, like I think that's why I found myself liking it.
So it did, but then like it shot it like it was funny. Like so many of the scenes felt like the whole thing with her calling him Roy is super dark. And like you don't find that out until whatever, an hour into the movie. It's super fucking dark, right? But all of those bits up to then have been played for laughs.
That's
right?
the thing.
Like,
I think they were, but I don't think they were intended to be.
Well, they were shot like a sitcom when she's like calling him Roy, and he's like, they're going back and forth, and it's silly and zany.
Listen, hang on.
Like an hour in, you're like, this shit's dark.
This is my take on it. I think that Laura S. Can we settle on Laura S?
Yeah, Laura S. Yeah.
Let's just call her Cindy, because I think that's how you pronounce it.
I think Laura Cindy Sanchico. I'm sorry. I think Laura S.
meant Laura is pronounced Cindy. We were just calling her Cindy.
I think she had a hard job because, like, the all that stuff with the Roy stuff. I was confused from the start, right? Like, why were those guys trying to load her into the wagon and like take her to Alan Rickman's?
Because they were picking up whores.
Because reasons.
I mean,
so the movie could happen.
No,
that scene. Wait, that's a great point. That scene was.
I'm genuinely
comedy.
asking because my kid was talking over some of that stuff. So like, that's why they were picking up prostitutes to bring to that ranch.
They said Alan Rickman said they could bring back some white women because they were tired of having sex with the black women.
Oh, gross. Okay.
But I think all the other women there were voluntary women of ill repute. What are we supposed to say? Whatever it is. Like everybody else was on board with it, but
right.
She was just a nut job.
Yeah.
So there's certainly no consent. But then Tom Selleck put her on the thing anyway. But that whole fight scene, she like hits Tom Selleck with the oar, trying to hit the other. Like,
right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Literally slapstick.
It was. Yeah. No, you're right. I'm misremembering a bit of it. I definitely lost consciousness a couple of times during this experience. But yeah, no, you're right. That was tonally played for slapstick. Felt like a totally different movie.
It was a totally different movie.
I think,
so when they took those couple real hard, dark turns, you were just like, why is this happening? They're just like, and all these people are dead. Somehow this baby survived an 80-foot fall. So let's scoop up
she
this
accidentally,
baby.
She accidentally murdered her baby, but you know.
That didn't make a ton of sense, that baby surviving that fall. But no, I thought Laura Giacomo had a really difficult job because, like, it's essentially, I think, I mean, and I'm not a psychologist, but essentially, I think what was going on with that character was a psychotic break. That, like part of the time she was in reality and in the current moment and interacting with him, knowing full well where she was and what the situation was. And then I think sometimes she was in her life before she got on that boat, you know, when she was married and before she accidentally killed her kid. And I think, like, because you don't get that sad story that she told until, you know, the two of them are alone together in the desert, like trekking back to that ranch. Like, I think at first when she embraces him and is like, Roy, blah, 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 I was like, is this an act? is she doing this to get away from these like predatory people that are trying
That's
to take
what
her?
I assumed.
Right? So I'm like, okay, is it an act? And I went on with that for a while, and then it kept happening in the weirdest of places, and I'm like, okay, is she crazy? You know, and then there were points where she was like completely cognizant of what's going on. And then I think you don't get the full picture until she tells the story. But then I think by that point, you're not like, at that point, you're then not thinking about the practicality of her going in and out of reality. I think you're just like, oh, all right, weird, you know. So I think she had a hard job, and I think she did it really well, as best she could.
I don't think any of the acting was bad necessarily. When you just described her storyline, it sounded like a super dark thing that could have been played super dramatically and maybe paralleled and been worthy of being compared to Dances with Wolves, right? A woman experiencing trauma after she accidentally murders her own baby because she's afraid of Native American, blah, 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 right? Super serious fucking plot line. But then, again, until you find out what the plot line is, like, it's her talking to one of the other women, and she's like, I don't know who that guy is. And then, like, he makes the shot, and she's like, that's my Roy. Like, what are we doing? Like, it's a weird call.
Yeah, I really
we're going to ignore the deepness and darkness of the plot and just film it up.
I really thought that the whole her not having enough of a grip on reality to keep accidentally calling him the wrong name, I thought that was completely unnecessary. Like, if you're going to have her going through some serious mental stuff, then do that. Don't, like, start it off as a comedy bit and then kind of play it for serious later and not have it really land. I don't know. It seemed super unnecessary to the story that they were trying to tell, to have her this whole like calling him the wrong name thing. It just seems super unnecessary.
That's why she has such a difficult job, because like this, it had to do two things. It had to convey this like awful dark, you know, this awful dark story. And then it also like she couldn't be too crazy because she had to be appealing enough to be the love interest, and that you wanted to root for them to get together. So it walked a really difficult line.
And I felt like it didn't have to walk that line to begin with, to continue to actually tell the story that they were trying to tell, like the plot of this movie. Having her be that crazy to not have enough of a grip on reality to keep calling him the wrong name, I didn't think was necessary. It made it unnecessarily convoluted, and like the rest of the movie, it just didn't seem like enough things were happening to justify that being in there. I don't know. The whole thing seemed like such a weird mess, and I did not care for it.
I give it I give it more of a lukewarm. Like, I agree with what you're saying. I think it was a mess. But I sat there and I watched it and I was like, well, I didn't hate this. Like, it felt like they didn't know what they were trying to do. They were all over the map. And is this a serious movie? Is this a comedy? What are we doing? And I don't think if I was making a movie, I would hire any of these people to make another movie, because I'd be like, what happened here, guys? What were we doing? But as far as watching it, I don't know. It was fun. Like, there was moments where I laughed, and then I was like, wow, it was a good fight scene. I guess this is sort of a cowboy movie now. Like, and you're right. At times, it very much felt like a cowboy movie. Here's the problem with Westerns. I think... maybe, look, I'm not the biggest Western fan, so maybe a true Western fan's going to tell me I'm wrong for some reason. But like the big giant establishing shots, right? I feel like that comes out of a time when like they did big giant establishing shots because you had people in movie theaters that were just impressed to see nature and like a big field, because like you didn't have TV and fucking shit back then. So like when you showed a big, you know, establishing shot in Lawrence of Arabia of a desert, the person in the theater never see the desert, and it was impressive. But modern day, like, we don't care. And maybe that's wrong. Maybe we're...
I don't know about that, because I think in modern day, then you're impressed at how like how
slow, that they're taking their time.
No, I think you're impressed at how like big and open and free and devoid of like technology and people and stuff like that. Like I mean, like this was made in 1990, but even still, like I bet there's very few parts of the Australian outback that are like that.
Right, but I just mean as a movie watcher, when you're wasting, I say wasting, I mean, that's obviously a judgment there, but when you're spending a lot of your time just with these big, giant establishing shots and just sitting on a camera and I know it's not as long as it feels, but like, we don't shoot movies like that anymore because people aren't impressed by a desert anymore, right? Like, we just don't care. So I feel like when they do Westerns, they try to shoot them like old Westerns. And I think that might be why we don't see as many Westerns anymore. Like, you can make a Western set in, and I'm sure there's plenty of, or at least a handful of good examples of this. You can make a Western and film it like a modern movie and still set it in the past and still do all that. But we don't have to sit there and show me a wagon going across a desert at a far pulled back shot. Like, this is important. Like, I know where you are. Like, I know what a desert looks like. You don't have to remind me. I have the internet. I
think the purpose of the desert, like the desert shot in specific, I thought was, you establish something like that to show how far they have to go. Like, they're not in a car, they're not in a plane, they're walking, and this is like how desolate it is. This is how far they have ahead of them.
I mean, I don't know. I guess
it certainly looked expensive.
I guess there's merit to what you're saying, and I think in other ways I disagree. But I think it's also like literally the same argument that we had about 2001: A Space Odyssey. It was like all of that spaceship docking and grandiose stuff was because like nobody'd done that, and like now like everybody does it, now you can do it easily. So yeah, I mean,
no, I think you're exactly right. It's the exact same. Yeah, it's the exact same conversation on the exact opposite end of the spectrum. Yeah. Westerns and sci-fi, like. But you know what?
I mean, look. I think if
sci-fi realized don't spend time doing that anymore because we're not impressed anymore.
But I also think if we were in the movie theater in 1990 watching this, we would go, "That's pretty cool." But like now, after you've seen like Lord of the Rings and like what you could do with vast, expansive landscapes and digital technology, you go like, "All right, cool. That's a big field," So anyway,
right.
Listen, speaking of this movie being all over the map, speaking of maps, one thing I really appreciated this movie was the way it just started, right? Because and look, I'm going to compare it to a thing we were talking about earlier, which was that Captain America movie, right? Not that these two movies are anything alike. It's like comparing like apples and chicken nuggets or something, right?
Basically a shot-for-shot remake.
Right. But like, look, that Captain America movie, like, all right, it started with like Ross and that campaign thing, but then you went into that mission that he was on, and you're like, what's happening? Like you got enough context to be like, oh, okay, like this guy's working with the army, and then they're coordinating about this, and they're talking about a buyer. Like you could put stuff together, but then like at a certain point, I was like, dude, should I have brought a notebook to this movie? Like, did I need Cliff Notes? But like Quigley Down Under started, and it's like boots, belt buckle.
Bullets,
knife, yeah, bullets, and then he's like map, and he points to the western part of the United States, and then he takes his finger and he's like Australia, and then it's like boat, and I'm like, all right, cool, man, like get me my popcorn. This is all I need to know. He's a cowboy and he is going to Australia. Like
next shot, boat pulling into port in Australia. You're like, oh.
Like,
right.
This movie got right to work, and I enjoyed that.
And what did he write? Alan Rickman was like, lots of other people sent me, letters explaining why they are the best shooter. I chose you because of this. And he hands like his advertisement, and it looked like Tom Selelck just like scribbled on it in like lipstick or something.
Yeah, he wrote Matt Quigley, 900 feet or something like that. Like, it was essentially like he's looking for a sharpshooter, and he wrote like his name and then the distance he could hit a target from.
Right. So I think Alan Rickman's character, it's his own fault that he's dead. I mean, that was a stupid choice. Other people are writing back full sentences, and they're like, I'm a very good sharpshooter. I can shoot very far, and I will come work for you. And he's like, I'm going to pick this guy who just wrote his name and the number 900. Like, well, you're an idiot. Like, why? This is not a good resume. This is psychotic.
But so was he.
Yeah.
Well, he was, I don't know, his character I found to be super interesting too, because like a lot of what he was doing and the way that he conducted himself was completely impractical for the Old West, and like he would have been killed at least a dozen times, right? Like there was quite a few times where it's like, all right, by nature of what has happened in the scenes before, we can extrapolate that these people want to kill you and will stop at nothing to kill you. And like, maybe you just want to get ahead of the situation and kill them, right? But like, there was a lot of times that he had to do this thing that made him, I don't know, this like hero that lived by a code or something, you know, like at the end when he goes to the ranch and he's gonna exact his revenge, basically. He sends that message in, and it's just like, anybody that leaves now or anybody that leaves before morning, you're safe, but if you stay, I'm gonna like kill you all, you know. So like he had to like give them all a warning. It was not so different than like when he was in that town, and then like they were after him, and he kind of like, he was under that boat for a little bit, and then he like crawled through that weird little pipe, and he like comes to the other side, and like then he's behind those three guys, and he should have just killed them all. Like they were actively trying to kill him, but instead he's like, hey guys, you know. And like it was because like he needed to have them reach for their guns so that he didn't just shoot them in the back. Like there was tons of times in the movie where he should have just killed somebody, but instead he's like, throw your gun down, you know, and like waits for them to go for their gun first before he kills them. So I don't know. I thought that was like very Western, but also like very stupid.
He had the good guy code of the West to follow. I didn't like it. My notes while I was watching this started out with like, I was super excited with the boat in the beginning, and it's like, this all looks and sounds very expensive. And then I just wrote, this movie is profoundly dull, because that's just kind of how I felt about it. It just seemed, I didn't care about anybody. Young red-headed Ben Mendelsohn was pretty interesting to see.
Which guy? What? Who? That was
the
Ben
redheaded.
Mendelsohn?
Yeah.
Which guy?
The younger redheaded kid that was like,
who could kind of shoot.
Who could kind of shoot well.
The guy who was like essentially supposed to be like the young punk gunslinger character.
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that was him.
I spotted his name in the credits in the beginning, and so I kept my eyes out for him. And as soon as he started talking, I was like, "Oh shit, that's him!"
Is he Australian? Is that and was this shot in Australia?
This was shot in Australia. I don't know that he's Australian, but yeah, it was. I just didn't care for it. I was very disappointed. I was expecting something lighthearted and fun, and it just kind of started off lighthearted and fun, but then became dull and dour, and I don't know. Alan Rickman's always a good time. He's always fun.
Yeah, like I feel like it was like, you know, insert awesome villain here, and it's like you could just take that persona that Alan Rickman has and plug it into lots of places.
Indeed.
I don't know. I thought the like there was sometimes, like, how do I put this? Like, I think the movie always kind of did what you expected it to do, but like I think there was some kinds that it kind of like zigged when I thought it was going to zag, even though it then ultimately delivered the same outcome, you know, like at the end when he goes to the ranch and he's going to challenge them, like I kind of thought like, oh, this is when he's going to like put together a posse, you know, like he's going to like bring Laura San Giacomo and she's going to have a role, and he's going to like, and those people in the town that, you know,
German family.
Yeah, that German family where the woman died. Like I was like, they're gonna come help, and like the tribe of Aboriginal people is gonna come help. Like they're gonna, you know, have their spears and stuff, and they're gonna show up at a very like strategic spot, you know, and like that didn't happen. Instead, he like set up a series of Predator style traps that he shot.
Now I was thinking more Return of the Jedi. But yeah.
Oh, like, that they would be like Ewoks?
They would be like Ewoks, and they set up all the little logs. And then all the Aborigines people showed up like on a mountain 35 miles away, and they're like, there's a lot of them. We could probably kill this guy and casually walk away before anything happened to us, but we're still going to get freaked out and leave. And then every single one of them was Batman and just disappeared.
I don't know. I thought that was cool. But
they also didn't really explain why that one guy, like, I mean, we can sit here and like build the story, but I don't know.
Why'd the butler betray Quigley in the first place?
Right.
Like, why did you take that opportunity to hit him with the boat oar and be like, I'm helping my master out?
If he wanted, right. So he didn't seem like he liked his master.
I think he was scared, and I think he didn't understand.
Right, and this is what I'm saying. So we're building the story here. Like they needed to give us just a little bit of character development on him for that end scene where he hands Quigley back his gun and then walks away while stripping, to have a little more meaning. Like, I don't know. I again, we can kind of piece it all together, but I don't know. You're telling the story. Don't make me tell the story to me, because then why do I need you?
Listen. I thought the movie still held up. Ultimately, I thought the choices that they made still in the 90s still held up now. But I think if you were gonna make this movie now, which I think you probably shouldn't, because if it didn't do well in the 90s, it's gonna do worse now. But let's say people's interests cycle around to caring about westerns or whatever, right? Like if you were going to make this movie now, I think it would be very different in that the Aboriginal people would have gotten a lot more character development. Like I think that there were parts of it that would have been subtitled, and there would have been storylines where they're trying to communicate, and you would have understood their side of it, and there would have been more like the characters would have been fleshed out, like that butler guy, and you know, so instead you were seeing a white person's perspective on this world, which, you know, like again, ultimately I thought it was still okay, but it's not what you would see now. You know, it's not the way it would be handled currently.
Yeah, I don't know. They made it currently. They just got to pick a direction. Are we making a serious film that rivals Dances with Wolves, and we're going to take all these deep, heavy plot lines and run with them? I think you could do it. There was good stuff in there. Or are we making a fun, you know, comedy adventure movie? Which I think they could have pulled off too. They had all the right pieces for that.
I'm glad she gave that baby back. Like, I kind of thought they were gonna, you know, I was like, oh, like she had this dark thing happen to her where her baby died, and like now she saved this baby, and I was like, now she's gonna end up with Quigley, and they're gonna like raise this like Aboriginal baby together. But then like when she gave it back, I was like, oh, that was good, because she kind of just stole that baby from its like people and its culture.
So I had the same thought as you, and then as she was giving it back, I was like, are they just giving it back to any black people? Because that seems almost more racist. They're like, well, it's a black baby, better give it to some black people.
Go be with your own kind.
Like, where did these people come from? Because it just seemed like they grabbed any Aboriginals and were like, we're just gonna give you this kid.
But this is why I'm saying that those characters would have been fleshed out a lot more, right? Because, like, I think by the same token, we don't know anything about that baby. Did it have aunts and uncles?
If those were aunts and uncles, if they had pieced that together, I'd be like, great, let's give the child to the aunts and uncles. Love it.
Is it a society where you care for, where the tribe cares for a baby? You know what I mean? Like, we don't know anything about it, you know?
Right. If it was just Tom Selleck being like, you're a white lady and that's a black baby, we should find some black people to give that black baby to, then it seems less good. Then it's like, I don't love this.
Also, when we picked this movie and we discussed it, I jokingly said, will someone say a dingo ate my baby? And there was definitely a point in this movie where a dingo almost ate that baby.
That dingo tried to eat that baby.
Yeah. It sure did.
And you know what? See, and that's the problem. For as light as some of these scenes were, when he walked back into that cave, I didn't know. I was like, maybe the dingo ate the baby, right? Like, maybe this is just going to go even darker where she's like, I didn't smother the baby, but the wolves ate it. Like, because this movie was just doing whatever the fuck it wanted.
So then I ate the wolves.
Right? It's like, shit. This bitch is crazy.
I don't know. I think she had a hard job. Like, she had to. It was such a weird scene, right? Because like when he left her there, I was like, oh my gosh, like Alan Rickman's men are gonna come for her, and then she's gonna have to keep the baby quiet. You know, like I was like, it's gonna be the same thing that happened to her, you know. And then it wasn't exactly the same thing. It was dingoes, which was I don't know, which was different, which was a choice.
And then, like, she kind of got through that, but when he showed up, she was like, the Comanches came, but I killed them. And I was like, well, this is weird too.
Well, it was almost like she had to have that scene in order to, like, I don't know, mentally defeat this like mental loop she was in. And I think what it was supposed to be was like she had to be in the same situation and overcome it and like win instead of lose the baby, so that like she could like move forward and like be with him. So I don't know, like it's all in there, but again, it's a little tough to sort through in terms of like what stylistically the movie is.
So my end result on this film is I'm going to say go ahead and watch it. I'm going to give it a thumbs up with the proviso, with the addendum of whatever you think you're getting, you're wrong. Just, I don't know. It's fine. It's fine. If you haven't seen it, go ahead, watch it.
I don't know.
I'm going to give this one a big old thumbs down and say if you really want to watch a bland Western, there's better ones to choose from.
I enjoyed it. You know, look, I think you're right. There's plenty of better Westerns to choose from, but I guess in a world where you don't get to watch a lot of Westerns, I'm certainly not watching them week to week. I thought this was a pretty interesting watch, so I'll give it a thumbs up.
Did we point out the last podcast that we all kind of picked Westerns?
We all picked Westerns. That was the weirdest thing. And even Sean's, that maybe isn't a Western, is a movie that stars John Wayne, so it might as well have been a Western.
Yeah, and he kind of plays a cowboy-esque character. And, like, this isn't technically a Western. He's in Australia, but he's a cowboy, and it's like they were all kind of Westerns. It's a weird draw.
That's weird.
Wow. Huh. Okay. Well, I guess it's time for us to pick what our next movie is going to be. So now that Q is behind us, it's on to the letter R. Who wants to go first?
I'll go. I got an R movie. I was looking for a different movie, and I couldn't find the movie I was looking for. Does anyone remember? I don't think this is the movie I was looking for. Does anyone remember a movie where John Lithgow kills a kid, and then there's another kid, and maybe the ghost tells the other kid that John Lithgow is the murderer, so then the other kid has to hide from John Lithgow, and John Lithgow wants to take the kid out of a school and put him in a car?
Boy, oh boy, you had me at John Lithgow kills a kid.
Yeah, I don't...
Are you sure you're not thinking of Dexter? Like the 4th season of Dexter?
No, I'm not, but that kept coming up when I was trying to find this. So then I was just IMDbing John Lithgow, and then I saw a movie called Raising Cain, and I was like, oh, that's supposed to be a good movie, and I don't think I've ever seen it. So my pick is Raising Cain.
Was it Ricochet?
I remember watching it when I was a kid, and I just remember the kid like hiding in the school, and John Lithgow's trying to get him in the car, and John Lithgow realizes the kid knows, and I think a ghost told the kid.
And this like possible John Lithgow movie that you're talking about may or may not be an R movie?
No. I was trying to find this, and I came across in John Lithgow's IMDb. He's in the movie. He's the star of the movie Raising Cain.
Oh, gotcha.
And I was like, oh, that's a big movie name that like you hear a lot. Like that was supposed to be a good movie, and I've never seen it. I don't really know what it's about. I know very little about it, other than like that's one of those movies that like you hear people talk about, like Jacob's Ladder. But I've seen that one now. But like that's the reason I watched Jacob's Ladder. I was like, people always say this fucking movie title, and it was a thing. I was like, all right. And I don't know. It's an interesting movie. It's worth the watch.
I think it's about a fried chicken place called Raising Cain, right?
What?
I'm joking. It's not about that. Isn't that a chicken chain? A fried chicken chain?
Is it?
Is it?
I don't know. I'm looking it up.
I don't know what you're talking about, Paul.
Totally is. Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers. I'm going to go to the website.
I've never heard of this. Wow.
Yeah, I don't know that.
Maybe it's a Pennsylvania thing.
But no, Raising Cane's like an 80s movie starring John Lithgow, and it's, I don't know, it's famous.
Yeah. No, there's a couple of them all over the country. Find a location. You want to see if there's a Raising Cane's near you guys?
I'm good.
Okay.
I don't yeah.
All right.
Man, if we vote for this, then I might have to see if there's one somewhere near here so that I can drive and go get the food, because, man, that's on point.
I still can't believe that they've never had a promotional tie-in with the Sonic the Hedgehog movies and Sonic the Restaurant. Like, there's been Burger King tie-ins and stuff for the Sonic movies, but there's an actual restaurant, fast food chain called Sonic, and they've never teamed up with these Sonic movies to make cross-promotion happen. I can't believe that they've never done that.
I thought you were going to try to tell me that there's a character called Burger King, like the Burger King. Burger King movies.
Anyway, you want me to go next or you want to go next?
Chris, have you ever seen Run Lola Run?
Oh, maybe? I can't remember.
I have.
It's a wild movie. It's kind of like
It is.
It's almost like a music video or something.
Like, I know I've seen, like, I've held the DVD in my hand many times. I can't remember if I've ever actually seen this. I don't think that I have.
I haven't seen it in a long time. I'd rewatch that. I remember liking it.
Usually you ask me a question now.
Who, me?
Yeah.
What's
Have
your
you
pick?
ever seen it?
Have you ever seen it?
No, what was the first thing you said?
What's your pick?
My pick is Roadhouse.
Ah, you son of a bitch.
I want to make you guys watch Patrick Swayze do some high kicks and live above a barn.
That was my pick, but sort of. I was going to suggest that we do a Roadhouse double feature where we watch both the original Roadhouse and the new Jake Gyllenhaal Roadhouse back to back, and then compare and contrast.
That was my joke last time around the alphabet. You took it from me. I wanted to do it until we picked Roadhouse. Like last time I was like, have you seen Raising Arizona? And you're like, no. And you're like, is that your pick? And I was like, no, it's Roadhouse.
I completely missed it. Sorry, went over my head.
I was trying to make a bit and you stole it from me.
So that's your pick, Roadhouse?
I don't know. Maybe because it's your pick, it shouldn't be. You want my pick to be Run Lola Run?
I don't know. I have like 3 other R movies that I was going to pick, but Roadhouse was the one that I wanted to do most because that's what Karen said. She's like, you should do a Roadhouse double feature where you watch both the Roadhouse movies.
Now I played my hand. Yeah, but we've also already played the marathon card this time around the alphabet.
Yeah, but this isn't a marathon. This is just a double feature. If it was a marathon, we'd be watching the Roadhouse 2 as well. But I think a double feature doesn't necessarily have to count as a marathon.
All right. Look, How about this? I'm gonna take the temptation off the table. My pick will be Run Lola Run, and then you can decide if you want yours to be Roadhouse or one of your other R movies. And then if you pick as one of the other R movies, I'm totally gonna do this joke next time around the alphabet.
I think you should do it I think you should do it the next time around the alphabet anyway. But I don't know that I'm going to remember it because that was a long time ago and my memory is for shit.
I know. It was probably like over a year and a half ago.
You know, I've never seen Romancing the Stone. I thought about Rudy. And honestly, just in the interest of having a more fun Alan Rickman movie, I was considering Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. But a Roadhouse double feature sounds like a real good time. Did you guys watch that new Roadhouse?
I have not seen the new Roadhouse.
I think we talked about it a little bit.
We did talk about it briefly.
We did. It's a good time. So, yeah, I'm going to say my pick's a Roadhouse double feature.
Okay.
And you're going with Run Lola Run?
Yeah, I'll go with Run Lola Run.
Plaid leader standing by.
Oh, blue leader standing by.
Turquoise leader standing by.
All right. And go.
Whew. I think we knew how that was going to swing.
Yeah, I mean, how do you say no? So you guys are okay with the double feature, right?
Yeah.
That can fit in the rules?
Yeah. For Roadhouse, I'll make the exception.
I think a marathon's got to be at least 3 movies. Like, I don't think you can call watching two movies a marathon.
Maybe we establish that rule this time around the alphabet. We get one marathon card and one double feature card.
Yeah, I'm into that. I like it.
My word, what? We've only done 2 marathons, right? Rambo and Karate Kid.
Yep.
Rocky, the other Stallone movie.
Rocky and Karate Kid.
The
And
only
I mean,
marathon sports movies.
Does Fast and the Furious count?
No.
It was kind of like a month-long marathon. Watching it 15 minutes at a time.
Ooh.
Boy, when are we going to get that, huh? When's the second half of that coming out?
Is it supposed to come out this summer, or is it a whole nother year?
God, I hope it's not a whole other year. I've already forgotten what happens. I know there was a dam at the end.
I think you'll put it together.
I tell you what I'm not going to do is rewatch it.
I think you can piece this plot together based on context clues as the next one starts.
Fantastic. Well, all right. So we're going to do a Roadhouse double feature. We are not going to watch Roadhouse 2 because I've heard it's terrible. But we're going to watch the original Patrick Swayze Roadhouse and the new Jake Gyllenhaal Roadhouse. 2 great tastes that I think are going to taste great together.
Sounds
So
like a plan.
there you have it.
It was good that we chose this movie for Valentine's Day weekend because I think it was topical. Like for the ladies, you had Tom Selelck and the the romantic comedy that unfolded, and for the guys, if you watched it with your lady, you could then say, "Hey, baby, I'm gonna slip you the Quigley Down Under," and you got that.
Sure. Gross. Why not? Dead babies and whores to boot. I mean, something for everybody.
Something for everybody. Yeah, good show. Theater Near You is a part of the Geekade Podcast Network, and if you'd like to get in touch with us to share your comments, movie suggestions, or whatever, you can send us an email at mail@geekade.com. We can also be found on most social media outlets and the official Geekade Discord server, all of which can be found in our show notes. If you'd like early access to this podcast and several others on the Geekade Podcast Network, check out the Geekade Patreon, linked to in the show notes. It helps keep the show running and our site shiny and clean. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you all next time in a theater near you.